Hello, welcome back to my channel, Hasty Books. I'm Camila and I have a beautiful pile of possibilities next to me because I'm getting ready for Nonfiction November, and I thought that today would be the perfect opportunity to go through this list, go through the prompts, and tell you what my potential plans may be. Nonfiction November is held every year and it is hosted by the lovely Olive at A Book Olive. She released her announcement videos a few weeks ago and I couldn't wait because I've been clicking refresh to see if she was going to post it, at some point in October, and I was really looking forward to knowing what the themes were going to be, because there's usually 4 words and then we can kind of interpret them and approach them in different ways. Or the only thing you have to do is really to just read one book of nonfiction in the month of November to participate. But I love to just kind of dive in because it's a good opportunity to read nonfiction. I don't read as much nonfiction the rest of the year usually, so I think this is great and I'm looking forward to this month. I've picked out a bunch of books here, as you may see, from my library. I own a lot of nonfiction and I'm always so excited about all these books, but I just don't take the time to go through them. And I think in the last year I was starting my PhD, I read a lot of nonfiction, obviously, for my research. I'm doing my literature review right now, and so there's a lot of reading, and sometimes I just need something kind of fiction and just for my brain to kind of, go to something else. But I went to my library and these are all the books that I pulled out. There's plenty more nonfiction, but these were the ones I was like, oh, I really want to read this one, I really want to read that one. So I've taken these out. This is the pile that sort of fits the themes, and this is the pile that doesn't, but we'll see. I'm trying to do more mood reading this year, so I thought I have a bunch that I think fit the themes and I would like to read. But we'll see how the month goes. Maybe I put one down and I pick another one depending on what I feel more like reading and the topic of it. So let's start first with the one book that I definitely will read because it's a buddy read. And this is Sea Room by Adam Nicholson. This is a work of nonfiction that basically Nicholson inherited 3 islands off the west coast of Scotland. I think that's correct. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to own your own islands? I feel like a lot of people always say that. I could buy my own island. 20 years ago it happened to Adam Nicholson. Age 21, inherited the Cheyennes, 3 lonely islands set in a dangerous sea 5 miles off Lewis. This is one of the Outer Hebrides Island in the northwest of Scotland. Only a stone bothy for accommodation and one of the most beautiful places on the planet. A world of hermits and stories, of birds and boats, of fishermen and sheep. Sea Room is this island story written with passion and poetry, a celebration for all of us of an island life. So I'm going to be reading this with Dia from Novel Idea because we tried to do a buddy read in September and both of us were like, I can't continue with this book. We both wanted to DNF it quite early on because we didn't enjoy it. So that book was called The Sea by John Banville, and so we thought, let's try another buddy read, let's try something else. And we were going through both of our kind of bookshelves and we saw we had this one in common, and I thought, let's continue with a sea theme, and I'm thinking this one will be less creepy. So I'm looking forward to sharing my thoughts with her along our reading experience. And I always love reading something based in Scotland, so I think it's always really, really nice. So this will be my priority number 1. Now let's start with the theme. So I'll move this. Look how gorgeous that is. A friend of mine's mom knitted it and she gave it to me at Thanksgiving. So yeah, it looks just so pretty. So it's my little decoration. So okay, the first 2 themes are fraud and web. So fraud is fraud. When I was thinking of fraud, I was thinking of lies, of something that's not quite what it's meant to be, what it advertises itself to be. And web to me also fell into a web of lies, or sort of that. I know web just generally, I think it's kind of just linking some interconnected things. So I think you could use it for many, many different things to approach it. But here's the couple books that I picked, and I think they kind of fit into both these themes. So the first one is Who Cooked Adam Smith's Dinner? A Story About Women and Economics by Gretchen Marcel. So I believe I bought this one for my husband, but I ended up that I'm going to read it. so I think it works within the kind of web theme because things are interconnected, but also potential web of lies. Because obviously, when we think about the history of economics when it started, so obviously this is referencing Adam Smith specifically, who was a Scottish economist who wrote The Wealth of Nations, and women were often left out because they weren't seen to be adding to, I guess, again, we come back to capital, the third theme, the wealth and the capital of a nation, and by the same time, men were only able to go out and do these things because they had women at home doing all this stuff for them. So I think it kind of fits with fraud a little bit as well. I think it's a bit of a stretch, but I feel like it works with the whole 4 words as an interconnected web theme because of the kind of impact that it might have to discuss these, and also like the fact that we've put kind of women on the side in this story of economics and in kind of the reality of I guess GDP and just the general lifestyle, of going to work and stuff like that. I feel like I've just given you a word soup, but anyway, I feel like this would work, and I think I've been meaning to read it for a while. Apparently I've read chapter number 1. I do not remember when, but I think that would be a good one to read, and it's quite short. I think it's about 180 pages. Another one that fits, I guess, fraud a little bit. I feel like also fraud goes a little bit with myth, because again, it's like something that's maybe not quite what it's advertising itself to be. So I've had this book for ages. It's called The Almost Nearly Perfect People, Behind the Myth of the Scandinavian Utopia. And I just kind of was really interested because I think I bought this around a time where there was a lot of stuff about, the utopia of, living in Denmark and Sweden and all of that. And I was really interested in that. And also, this is written by Michael Booth, and he wrote Beyond Sushi, I want to say, where basically him and his family, so his wife and their children, were traveling around Japan and kind of going, discovering the food culture and all of that. And I loved that book. It was ages ago, so that's why when I saw he wrote this, that I picked it up. I want to say I owned this book for maybe 7 or 8 years. And I work for a Nordic company, so I'm very kind of interested in the Nordic countries, in the Scandinavian nations. So yeah, I think it would be a really interesting one to kind of discover. We'll see if I get to it. It feels like it's quite a large book, although it's probably not. Well, it's almost 400 pages, so we'll see if I really have time to sit down and read this one in November, but I thought it would be a one that to kind of fit the theme a little bit. I feel like fraud lent itself well to kind of financial stuff, which I guess Hookhook and Spinner is a little bit about finance, but that's not something I wanted to read about, so that's why I feel like I've gone with the just something that advertised itself as something and it's maybe not quite that, like fraudulent a little bit kind of thing. So I thought these 2 books might fit the bill. In the web category, I also have The Bilingual Brain, because I feel like when I think of brain, I feel like it's almost like a web, for ideas, for the neurons. Like it just feels like very much like it's all about interconnected things in there. And I've had this book for ages. It's called The Bilingual Brain by Albert Costa. I started it. Okay, I'm 20 pages in. I mean, it's only 140 pages, so, still. It's quite technical and it's quite heavy. So I think that's why it was taking me a long time. Like those 20 pages took me a while to read. So again, I don't know that I will be picking this up again, but it's one that I definitely want to continue reading. Obviously as someone who grew up bilingual, and I'm just really interested in that aspect of our cultural life, I guess. And yeah, so I'm hoping I could pick it up. I see if I might kind of read maybe the next chapter because maybe a little bit at a time is going to be a good way to deal with this one. The third theme of the year of this month is capital, and I think we can easily link it with the finance aspect, economics, money and stuff. But to me, when I was thinking about capital, I was thinking of having like cultural capital, like something that's highly valued within our society, and we in a way exclude people who don't potentially fit in that, or like how can we address this cultural capital that often comes from privilege. So that's kind of what I was thinking of when I went the direction of the books I'm going to talk about. And the kind of first one that would be my priority in this theme is this is the Canon Decolonize Your Bookshelf in 50 Books. And this was edited by Joan Anim Ado, Deirdre Osborne, and Khadija Sissay. So I picked this up earlier this year. I believe I bought it in like January when I was in St. Andrews at Totin & Co. And I want to read more diverse, and I want to read, like when we think of classic, I feel like we always go with the same, you know, like we go with Dickens and we go with the Victorian or Shakespeare, and we go with like the same ones that, again, I think is with cultural capital. And I thought, you know, what about going the other way? And I thought that this book was great. So it's basically a list, and I think it has like, you know, here we have If Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin, and then there's a little something about it, about the author, when it was published, if you like it, what else you could try. And I think that would be really nice. It's maybe something that I start this month and kind of dive into the different books, especially it'll be nice to see if I've read them, what they're saying about it, what else I could read if I've liked it, and then discover new to me authors and books as well. Then I think in the same vein, I think this one was also fitted, and it's also it's a collection of essays. It's called The Good Immigrant, and it's edited by Nika Shukla. And I think, although I don't believe that it's quite that specific, like cultural capital, like obviously if you're a citizen of that nation, I think you probably have more cultural capital in that sense. But you know, what of immigrant and what makes a good immigrant, and you know, to be thankful and to all of these different things, or to assimilate. So that's one that I'm very interested in as the daughter of a refugee, but also as an immigrant myself. And I'm just always interested, especially I think this is mostly based on the UK. It's because I believe there's a US version of this book, and then this is the UK version. Obviously living in the UK, so I think that's be very eye-opening and interesting to dive in. Again, in the same vein, I have this book here, but I own it. I really want to read it. I haven't been making time for it. It's I Belong Here by Anita Sethi. In this book, Anita Sethi, well, I think it starts with the fact that she was traveling to northern England when she was assaulted. I think it was like racially motivated, and basically to this book she goes back and tries to, I guess, reclaim that a little bit and reclaim like her right to exist. There's another one that I'm so interested in. I bought the hardback because I was so keen. And yeah, I look forward to reading it. I don't know that it fits the theme that well, but it's another one that I'm excited to read, and I think will be really interested. And yeah, I just look how beautiful that is. And finally, the last theme, the last word was display. And immediately, like, I was thinking of things on display, obviously, or displaying something, whether it's like acting or displaying like a certain character, things that are very visual. So I have a couple books here. I think most of them have to do with displaying an act or displaying objects. So the first one is Surfacing by Kathleen Jamie. This is, I think this is her third nonfiction work. She writes a lot of poetry. I've read the first two and I love them, and I think it talks a lot about objects. Again, I think this cover is basically a display, and she's very into nature and history, and I just love the observation that she makes. Her writing is something I really enjoy reading, like quietly and slowly. I don't know that November will be that month. Potentially it's one that I actually keep for December, for like the Christmas holidays, but we shall see. Then we have 1,000 Years of Joys and Sorrows, a memoir by Ai Weiwei. Because he's an artist, I think to me it went with display. And again, I think this cover, look at it, gorgeous. And it's very much like, I like his vision on objects being just objects, things being put on display, and then having value just for having been put on display. And yeah, I just thought it would be really interesting. Again, it's one that I bought the hardback of. It looks like quite a large book. Actually, it's not that big. I think just because it's a very large book. Look at next to my face. It's less than 400 pages. It has illustrations and stuff as well. So yeah, it's one that I'm interested in reading. I'm not sure I will pick it up in November, but I thought this is a good opportunity to show off this book and, you know, mention it and remind myself that I want to get to it at some point. This file is getting a bit heavy. So let's go with Dare to Try, My Journey from the BBC Breakfast Sofa to GB Team Triathlete by Louise Minchin. And I picked this one. Okay, this is a random one out, but bear with me. I thought that a triathlon, and I have done a short or a baby one, a triathlon is truly a display of strength, endurance, and effort. And so that's why I fit it in. Obviously, it's because I bought this book and I'm quite keen to read it. So I was like, how do I fit it into the theme? I think I've just managed to. I'm really into reading books by triathletes and runners, especially women runners and triathletes. And this is one that has been on my list for a while. And I bought it at Cherry Shop recently. And I believe Louise Minchin was the head of the Women's Prize of Fiction judging panel this year as well, I think. They she had a new book coming out as well, because I'm pretty sure she was at St. Andrews giving a talk recently. But yeah, I'm really interested in her experience as a triathlete, because that's something that I both enjoyed and suffered through when I did my baby one. Yeah, I'm keen to know what she did and what kind of experience she had. And finally, the last book that kind of fits the theme is The Museum of Whales You Will Never See, Travels Among the Collectors of Iceland by Kendra Green. Again, I think this is one I picked up in a charity shop, but I think museum, you know, this fits the theme of display perfectly. So this is kind of the priority book for that theme. That fits it very well. And I think, it's a short one as well, about 200 pages. And I work for an Icelandic company, so, you know, I think it's always nice to learn more about that country. And although I'm always like, is it the Museum of Whales? Is it the whale or the museum that you will never see? I do not know. But yeah, I look forward to seeing what this book is actually about. There are a lot of really weird museums in Iceland. So I think this might go through that with a weird like collection. Sometimes it's literally like a house and it's open as, you know, as a collection for people to visit, but it's just a personal collection of things. So I think, yeah, this might kind of touch on some things that I already know about, but might discover new things. So these were the books that sort of fit the theme. And there's quite a few. I don't think I'm going to read all of these. Realistically, okay, let's undo this file. Let's do this. Oh, okay. Realistically, I think this will be my file for the month. That's half realistically. Serum, definitely. I really want to read this one. Again, I'll restart it and see how easy it is to read and how quickly I can get through it. Actually, realistically, I don't know if I'm going to actually get to this one. I'll definitely dive in and out of that one. And I really want to read these two. So, yeah, so it's about sort of 5-ish book, which is kind of my goal. But, second part of this video is the pile of possibilities part 2. Like, we're doing a deeper dive into some of the books that I own. They don't fit the theme, but they're books I'm interested in reading, and why not talk about them here? All right, I've switched the piles. Little decoration can go here. All right, so, oops, I have a hair here. Okay, so I have these 4 books. So they are Inklings. So they are short books that are published by 404 Inc. I think that's actually their name. It's a independent publisher here in Scotland. I think they're based in Edinburgh. And every year or two, since the pandemic anyway, they've asked for kind of pitches for short books that are kind of fun, culturally relevant, you know. So anyway, I have these 4 and they are short and easy to read. The first one is Now Go on Grief and Studio Djibouti by Carl Thomas Smith. Then we have BFFs, The Radical Potential of Female Friendship by Anna Hith Rose. We have The Loki Variations The Man, the Myth, the Mischief by Carl Johnson. This is interesting because obviously we're in the middle of watching season 2 of Loki. I didn't actually enjoy season 1 that much, but I'm really enjoying season 2 up to now. And then we have Whatever Next on Adult Adoptee Identities by Josephine J, Adeline Barra, and Hannah Febben Smith. So there's 4 here. I really enjoy reading these, and usually I can sit, in one sitting I can read the whole thing. So if I'm feeling like reading a little something at some point during the month, I may pick one of these up because they're always great. And I think that next year they have another set of books coming out, so I look forward to seeing what their selection will be. Then we have Bittersweet by Susan Cain. I loved her book Quiet. It's actually probably one of my favorite nonfiction books ever, and I know that Olive of a Book Olive also loved it, and I remember she discussed this book on her channel, and that's when I became aware that Susan Cain had her new book, and I bought it when it came out. I pre-ordered it actually when it came out paperback, and I look forward to reading it. I feel like it would be great to read it in November for Nonfiction November. It doesn't really fit the theme, and I don't know that I'll have time, but potentially it's one that I dive into, and I ended up pushing everything off for this book. I can see that happening. Or potentially it's one I keep for the holidays, because again, I want to probably immerse myself in her book. Like when I read Quiet, it spoke to me so much, and I look forward to this one as well. Oh, I love her writing and her insights, and just it really kind of calls to me. Then we have The Art of Travel by Alain de Botton. This is basically he's a philosopher, a modern philosopher, and he discusses different things. So I have another one on what Proust can teach you in life, the different life lessons, and I have The Art of Travel now because I do love traveling. So maybe one that I'll pick up again. I think it's going to be one that would be easy and quick to read, and it has like lots of photos and stuff like that. So yeah, an interesting one. Then, why not read about fiction in a non-fiction book? Why Women Read Fiction, The Stories of Our Lives by Helen Taylor. I'm always interested in kind of books about reading, so I just had to pick this one up. Then the final 3, we have None of the Above by Travis Alabanza. I believe that this won this year's JALAC Prize. It's non-fiction. It's called Reflection on Life Beyond the Binary. And so when I saw it at the end of the charity shop, and that's where I bought it. I had to have it. So another one that I'm really keen to pick up as well. Then we have Crying in H, Marked by Mitchell Zauner. I actually started this one, I think I started last year. I had to say I didn't super connect with it. I know everyone who's read it who told me it was like their favorite of the year, their favorite nonfiction, they cried, and I've just really been struggling to connect with it in the first kind of section. I think I'm maybe a third of the way through, but I kind of want to keep going because sometimes for me it just takes a bit of time to get really into a book. So yeah, and I really want to finish it at some point. And finally, a book in French that potentially could help my goal of reading in French. It's called Toute une moitié du monde by Alice Zeniter, and I believe this is nonfiction. Honestly, it's really unclear. French books are so badly marketed, frankly. But I bought this when we were in France in September, when we were in Nîmes, and obviously there was a bookstore, and I was like, I have to go in, I have to buy a book. I had a tiny bag, but I thought a tiny book, I'll be easy to pick and bring home. So yeah, oh gosh, and there's so many more nonfiction books that I have that I would want to read. I don't think I can read all of these because that's a bit much, as well as everything else I'm doing in November. But I'm looking forward to it. Oh, I'm so excited, and I'm sure this video has gone on for too long already, so I will wrap this up. But let me know what you're planning on reading. What's your top nonfiction book that you want to read, or if you're not participating in Nonfiction November, what else are you reading this month? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and follow. It always helps, and I thank you so much for your support. As always, thank you so much for watching, and see you back. Bye.